All right. Here we are. I'm here with Surge. I've been hopping in the MMA discords the last month or so, checking out all the content over on Fantasy Guru. And Surge and T Rod are the guys manning up the UFC. Surge is in there in the DFS chat every weekend, kind of cheering on or being with us for when our plays go, certain ways. And I just kind of wanted to have you on, say what's up, and see what you've been up to. So, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be on here. I'm happy that you're having me on here. This is the first time I'm getting to talk about UFC because I mean back in the day I'm mostly talking about NBA or MLB, but like ever since me and T Rod got the opportunity to start doing UFC content, which we also do PJ content together for Guru as well. We've always been excited to promote UFC on Guru, and then hopping on this type of platform, a live forum where we can talk about it, is always a great opportunity, and I'm glad to be on.
And of course, they have a bunch of great content on the site. We're not going to spoil all that, but I did, I'm a UFC fan beyond sports betting, which I like, and the DFS and all that. I just enjoy UFC, so I was like, all right, well, let's get them on and say what's up on this sexy ass card. I mean, 299. You could argue it's better or at least competing with 300. So, give us your first thoughts on this card in general. I mean, it's pretty loaded, right?
It's like compared to the recent pay-per-views that we've had, this one blows them out of the water. And like you just mentioned, like 300 is going to be a great card. And I wish we were getting a better title fight for that one, but it's still a great card. But this 299 leading up into 300 is as great as it's advertised. We have like even the prelim fights are amazing. So like
Yeah.
it's a stacked card, like a lot of fights that are close fights, like really coin flip fights. Because most of the time, sometimes in pay per view fights, you get a lot of like these fights that like you got like three or four minus 500s, minus 600s. We only got a few of those on this card, and like a lot of fights are really, really close.
Yeah, like last week's card, right? We had everyone was like a plus minus 300 minus 400 favorite. And then we
Yeah.
get to this one and I opened up the card. It's like Jolton Almeida versus Curtis Blades, Peter Yang, like Peter Yan and Yadong Song Yadong. Those are guys that I'm like, "Oh, I'm picking them going into the week." And now they're against each other. It's like, "Oh, crap. I don't
Yeah.
know." Kevin Holland versus Michael Venom Page, Dustin Poirier, Benoit Saint Denis. I mean, that's gonna be a
That
crazy
might be
fight.
my favorite fight of the card, like of the main card, that Poirier BSD fight, only because I mean, eventually, if you guys are a part of Guru, you can see the article on which way I'm leaning, or me and T Rod are leaning. But like that fight might be fireworks, but it's also interesting because we know BSD. He's basically every fight shooting himself out of a cannon. He's just going for it. He's got the power in his hands. He he will start shooting from the middle of the octagon and just plow the guy into the cage and get him down, and he's finishing everybody he's seeing. But then Poirier's been doing this for such a long time, and he's actually
Yeah.
the underdog. He's a considerable underdog in this fight, and I'm like, I mean Poirier. I, I mean that Gaethje head kick, like it happens, but like it's not like I don't think he's like past his prime or far from it. I think Poirier can stand in there with the best of them. He had Oliveira hurt when he was trying to keep the belt,
Yeah.
and Oliveira just pulled off an Oliveira and came back and beat him. But I don't know. Poirier is like the fact you can get Poirier at plus 180 almost is amazing to me.
Yeah, and of course, part of that we can thank Matt Frivola for getting,
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely smushed. But
yeah,
yeah, you think back to Dustin Poirier's last 5 years, beating Max Holloway, kind of being in all these competitive fights. By the way, Charles Oliveira, they have like a camp. They all have the same hair. So whenever
yeah,
some guy comes out that kind of looks like Charles Oliveira, I'm like, oh, I'm probably gonna bet on this dude. They're all
yeah.
tough. You
You
know
can
what I
trust
mean?
them. You can trust anyone out of the shoot camp. Yeah, they're just great at everything. They're like so dynamic. They have great striking. They have great submission games. They're just fun to watch, and they're like they have very. I guess they just train like that. Like they're just dynamic mixed martial
Yeah.
artists.
So I guess on the prelim, is there anybody to watch for you? I mean, we got. I looked at, initially as a more casual fan, Michelle Pereira and Michael Oleschejchik. I looked
That's
at that one. I love Michelle Pereira, even though he goes to decision a lot now. And this Robellis dude, I'm like, I've never seen him fight, but I did see a few KOs. So, is there
despite
anyone
yeah.
else on the prelims you're kind of looking at here?
So I love that Pereira fight. That's gonna be a banger because Pereira, like, he's definitely slowed down his pace and he's fighting a smarter game recently. That's why he's on his fighting win streak. But Alexei is freaking just a freaking one of the cleanest boxers right now. So and if he can get into Pereira's pockets of spaces, that's gonna, and they want to like exchange violently, like we can see fireworks in that one. And then T Rod, my boy T Rod, loves his Hispanic kids, and he thinks he's like one of those physical specimens that come into the UFC. You don't
Yeah.
know if he's gonna live up to the potential of what you see on like paper in terms of his wings. He has a ridiculous wingspan and all that. But I'm buying into what me and T Rod are buying into what we're seeing in terms of his fighting career. I mean, it's very relatively new, but I think the odds are suggesting that he should finish this guy. She should finish Parisian, and I think he
Yeah.
will. Another fight that I think is going to be fun is the Kutalaba versus Linz fight. So that's
Oh yeah,
yeah,
Ion
and
man,
that's an
that
early
guy.
prelim. Yeah. So Kutalaba hits like a truck, and Linz has been quietly like doing this thing and posing. He's got clean striking, but Kutalaba, like, he's faced some quality opponents and he's taking some tough losses, even though he's actually negative for his record in the UFC. But when he wins, he mauls his guys. When Kutalaba gets these guys, when he imposes his game, he gets them to the ground. He does whatever he wants. So it's going to be interesting to see, like, does Kutalaba try to stay on the feet with him and try to get a clock him with an overright while he's scared for a takedown, or Lynch just like maybe is a better striker, which I think he might be just technical from a technical standpoint. And then we
Yeah.
also have, I know you mentioned Blades versus Almeida. That's a great fight. When you think two heavyweights, you always think about uh, like just someone's going to get knocked out, right? But this one is two of the best grapplers in the division,
Mhm.
and so it's going to be coming down to like who gets the takedowns and who gets that top position, who gets mounted. But then also Almeida, his jiu-jitsu is great. So like even if he ends up on his back, he can actually transition to submissions, and that I mean RDA maybe one of his final few fights coming up. He's future Hall of Famer. He's fighting Gamrot. That should be another.
True.
Yeah, it's just there's just so many great fights. It's a stacked card.
I've so when I first started really getting into MMA, Gamrot was like my first guy where I knew him from outside the UFC, and I was so pumped. And then he loses his first fight to Guram, and I was like,
Yeah,
oh, busted. But now he's totally turned it
yeah,
around to beat
he's
some.
found his way. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
very methodical now. He's been doing what he wants to do. But yeah, it's going to be interesting because like I don't, once again, yeah, the article should be posted right about now. It will have all our takes on all our fights and our official picks. I know Russell likes to drop some bets. T Rod drops some bets in Discord as well. So we're gonna be enjoying this one.
Oh, it's going to be so much fun. And yeah, we're always in the Discord hanging out on Saturdays, afternoons, sometimes mornings if it's in like Ireland,
Yeah,
sometimes evenings. You know what's funny is we haven't even mentioned the Gilbert Burns Jack Della Maddalena fight, and it's like that's going to be a banger as well.
that would be a fun fight.
So yeah,
Hell, we haven't even mentioned the main event.
I mean, okay, so when you break down this card, at least 9 of these fights would be fight night main event, right? Like,
100%.
yeah.
100%. Holland Page could be a main event for a fight night. Poirier's BSD could have been. Yeah, I agree. That's a co-main. That's a good co-main pay-per-view fight. But like a
Yeah.
lot of these fights are crazy.
Or end of the year, they could even do that Michelle Pereira, like throw them on. It's like, oh, this is a weak card, but
Yeah,
I'll probably watch that one. But all right, I have a slight shift for us. Anthony Joshua's fighting our MMA pal Francis Ngannou this
I know.
weekend. Um, I'm probably going to watch and tune in. I mean, who knows what's going to happen there. Francis did go with Tyson Fury
I thought he won
that
that
last.
fight. I'm not gonna lie.
So I mean, this feels like alive. He's a pretty big underdog, and understandably, it's not his quote unquote sport. But that should be a fun one too. This is a great
Yeah,
weekend.
yeah. It's gonna be a lot of that. Saturday's gonna be packed with just all around fighting, and a lot of this is like stand up fighting too. The the pay per view card we're blessed with to watch UFC. A lot of them are gonna be good stand up exchanges, like really crisp. We're gonna see a lot of crisp boxing, and then we get to watch Nagano do his thing, and hopefully, I don't know. It's gonna be tough for him again, but I mean, the guy has massive power. We saw him with. I expected Fury just to work him like he did in that last round, the whole fight. But Nagano was actually dictating the pace for a lot of the fight, and I was highly impressed.
Absolutely. All right. And yeah, so O'Malley Vera, we all know how that first fight went. Weird leg injury. You know, we got to give credit for the
Yeah,
leg kicks at this point. We all know how dangerous those can be, but probably going to be a longer fight than a first round finish in this
yeah,
one, right?
yeah. I honestly think. I mean, we've seen O'Malley and we've seen Vero. They've been piecing up all that's been put in front of him. Like I thought O'Malley did lose to Jan, but he did enough to get that fight. Then I was very impressed with how he turned around that fight against Aljamain. And it's clear that he's, if not the best striker in this division right now. And then Cheeto is right there with him. And then when we first got that matchup, this is what we were expecting. And then obviously that matchup didn't live up to the hype. But now for the title, I don't know. Cheeto looks like he has a chip on his shoulder. I'm not saying that I like Cheeto to win. You have to read the article to find out who we like. But I think this is a great fight for both of them because we get to see them. No one's going to shoot. This isn't going to the ground. So it's just two great boxers just going at it for 5 rounds potentially.
Oh God! For some reason, that just reminded me of like the Ryan Hall, the guys
Oh
that can
yeah,
shoot.
yeah,
Claudio.
yeah.
Oh man! All right, so that's pretty much all I had. Unless there's something else, do you want to plug anything on the card? You know, of course, you're doing. Do you do the DFS, right?
Yeah, we do so our article is basically for the DFS. I mean, within the article you can usually find out bets like where we're leaning, what like certain like play certain things that you can go by like a submission in first round and finish
Sure.
in the first round based on like our analysis, but like our article and our cheat sheet is centered on DFS roster construction. But then, like I said previously mentioned, you and T Rod always likes to drop his bets for the week. I do not drop bets because I do not like to uh, curse myself, as per se.
Yes, that's generally what
Yeah,
happens. You
because
win the
anytime I
bets you
post a
don't
bet, I feel
post, and
yeah.
then the guy gets smoked that you do.
So
And
I rather just celebrate my DFS victories, and then if I do bet on the side, I mean I'm always in Discord. So if anyone ever has any questions about a bet or a parlay they want to ask about, or if they like anything, just shoot me a tag. I'm more than happy to answer. Clay's always there. T Rod's always there. But yeah, yeah, we covered it a lot.
awesome, man. Well, before we go, I actually wanted. So when did you start at Guru? Because I mean, we've kind of both been here for a while now, and it's like
Yeah,
this is the first time we've really connected, other than like when we meet for meetings and stuff. So
exactly.
how long have you been at the site, and how did you get here? What's kind of like how'd you what's your fantasy sports background here?
So I've So I started just playing fantasy sports ever since I was in college. I was in part of DraftKings and FanDuel. Always like I was always into the analytical and the math behind fantasy sports. So I always was an avid DFS player.
Mm.
So I never even thought about doing content because I was always busy with school. So I went to med school. I'm part of med school. I finished med school. I did my internship. I finished my fellowship. I'm actually doing my interventional cardio fellowship as we speak.
Wow.
So, so I never even thought about providing content, but I played DFS a lot. I played multiple sports, and then I had a couple buddies that used to produce content that was like, oh, if you ever want to produce NBA content, give Jeff Mans a holler. And I had conversations with Mans like, I can do this, I can do that. Like I'm kind of like a Swiss Army knife. I'm not gonna hone in on one or carry one topic, but I can help for the site with like I started off with cheat sheets. I think this was like it's going to be pushing almost 2 years now. So I started off with just cheat sheets, weekly cheat
That's
sheets here and
awesome.
there,
Yeah.
and then eventually I built up some street cred in NBA, and then I did some live shows and stuff like that. And NBA is probably my top sport, so now I do NBA articles. We just got Fensty, so that helped a lot to carry the burden with the NBA articles because we have Armando, we have Fensty, we have Scott, we have Mike Beard. Beard is actually the one who endorsed me to Jeff Mann, so I give him credit for that. We have Chris Rose, who's another one that does a multitude of sports. But yeah, been here for 2 years, and then T Rod came on with me as well. He came on to do PGA. I'm helping him out with PGA. PJ is mostly he's like the head honcho. I help him out with PJ, and then when we had Duke DFS. I don't know if anybody remembers that.
Oh yeah, great guy,
Yeah,
man. Yeah.
great guy, great guy. He used to do UFC for Guru, but then after he left, there was a big a void. No one was doing UFC, and me and T Rod loved the UFC. We always talk about it. We were always betting on it. Like I said, I play DFS in multitudes of sports, so
Yeah.
I'm well knowledgeable a lot of sports. So we were like, oh, why don't we hit up and see if we can start helping do some content for Guru? And we're like, we don't mind because it helps our process as well to make money because we have to do more analysis for each fight. Like I'm watching more tape than I've ever watched in the UFC than before. It made me an even bigger fan.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. No, it's awesome to have such good teams. So go check out all his content on the site. Of course, he mentioned we have more products than just MMA, but I love MMA so much. I was like, all right, we got to talk something 299.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I can get T Rod on here at some point to get his thoughts on the fights here in the cards. So we'll definitely have to do this again. Again, if there's anything you want to plug or anything you want to say before we head out, you're free to do so now.
I'm good. That was I had a great time.
Awesome, man. Thanks for coming on.
No problem. Anytime.